Hello and welcome to the Little Things podcast.
Why is everybody so giggly? Because the sun is shining. I haven't seen the sun for so long.
Praise the Lord.
Yep. It's just bringing joy.
What a mood changer, though, for reals.
Yes. And the temperature.
Yeah.
Although I loved the snow. We sat in here and watched the beautiful snow fall, but now I'm loving the sun. We needed it.
My ankles are showing.
So
and my legs are not shaved, but I don't care.
Neither are mine.
It's great. Okay, we have an extra special guest visitor today.
Who doesn't seem uncomfortable at all. Oh,
totally
uncomfortable. by the leg shaving conversation.
Oh, whatever.
Well, you could tell my husband this is actually maybe how you could get me to be quiet. Like, just put a microphone in front of me.
Yes. This is Jen Hansen, and she is here today to talk to us about nutrition and healthy eating and talking to our children about nutrition and our families and all of that. And I'm going to let her introduce herself a bit.
But first, I think we should say today is a very special day because Jen is willing to be here with us on her birthday. Happy birthday, Jen.
Happy birthday.
Thank you so much.
Do you feel older and wiser?
You know, maybe a little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A good thing.
Yeah. I like it.
You can check off, do a podcast on your birthday off your bucket list.
Yes.
Look at
and
that.
Can I tell you how old I am? 39.
That's a good year.
I know.
This is the year everyone says that they are.
I know.
Like for the
but I
rest
really
of your
am.
life.
Yeah.
That's how old I am.
Yeah. You're rocking it.
Yes. And I maybe shouldn't say, but my husband is a little under a year older than me, so he might be 40 next month.
Ooh.
Oh, wow. Well, you're not 40.
I'm not 40. I'm not.
No.
I said black balloons.
Are you going to have a party?
I don't know. He's not a super party animal. So I don't know. Like, I would plan a party, and then he would be like, thanks. So I don't know yet. I don't know. We might have to go ice fishing somewhere in South Dakota or something for a day.
That's his thing.
That sounds black balloonish to me.
Yeah, right?
He's
opposite of fun to me.
right.
But good for him.
But he loves it.
And good for you. What a good wife.
Well, let's hear.
We'll see. It's not planned yet.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah. Okay, well, yes, I'm a wife to Zach Hansen and a mother of 3 children. And then our 3, what we call floor people. Those are our dog children.
I love that phrase.
Floor people.
Floor people.
Yes. Last night, actually, at church, my middle child, Cora, was supposed to talk about somebody that she loves that has died, and she couldn't think of any actual people that, like she really has been alive for when they've passed away. And so she wrote her floor person died last year, and so she was talking about the things that she loved about her
Pastor
floor person.
Andy was going,
floor person.
That's hilarious.
So we moved to an acreage in Syracuse last year, and we are really loving being a part of that community. They've just welcomed us with such open arms, so we're really blessed to be there. I have my master's in public health with an emphasis on community health education, and have a master's level certified health education specialist, which I feel like is just for me to say that I know like a little about a lot of things, but like not a lot about anything. So I work in local public health for the last 10 years. My favorite thing to do has been to work with local communities to, like as a grassroots, community-driven action planning process to increase access to healthy foods, walking and biking and trails in rural Nebraska. And we did that through policy, systems, and environment changes. I'm a lifelong Lutheran, thanks to the grace of God and my mother. And I always have to say I grew up with Bethany's family. Her dad was my pastor for most of my life. He led me in confirmation, officiated Zach's and my marriage, and my father's funeral, and baptized 2 of my 3 children. So.
that is so cool.
I've known Jenny a long time, and her name is Jen now, but I'm going to try hard not to call her Jenny.
Professional name? No.
Well, and the funny thing is when I came out to the podcast studio, which is really just a portable, but when I came out here, they're talking, and the way Bethany said, yeah, and Jen grew up in Honey Creek, Iowa, and I'm like, and you guys just now realize this? No.
You can't. Jenny is one of the few people who have grown up in Honey Creek, Iowa. Like, there are so few of us. You have to know each other. Yes, you have to know each other.
So you've got to be good people if you grew up in Honey Creek, Iowa.
Well, I think so. Okay.
Has there ever been a Hallmark movie there? We talked about that, but it sounds like there should be.
Way more romantic than it actually is. Like, Honey Creek, Iowa is like a closed post office and a bar. Like, you blink and you've driven through it. You miss it.
Like, the only way you can describe it is by describing things that are nearby.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not actually it.
Yeah, that's true. We grew up in the country, so we were really, we weren't in town or anything.
Well, so far, I feel like Honey Creek, Iowa is batting 100. Is that a thing?
So
I shouldn't make sports references because I don't know if that was a good thing
No,
or not.
I think
But it's because so far the two people I know from Honey Creek, Iowa are great. So yay! It sounds like a good place to live.
Jenny, do you remember our church talent shows?
Oh,
No, I'm the one who should be embarrassed.
no.
I feel like Rachel and I did more of.
And side note, twin sister Rachel, not
Yes,
this Rachel.
my sister. We were more involved in the talent shows than anyone should ever have wanted or seen, or I don't. That's what I think of whenever I see her mom too. Of like, oh, she has seen
So much.
so much of my embarrassing moments.
But Zach was posting something that were like, I was singing and I didn't know he was recording, and it was so, I was like, oh, that is awful. He's like, that's you. I'm like, I know, but it's still really bad. And now when you say that, I know I sang many songs I should not have sung alone by myself with a microphone. So
It was so fun, though.
it was.
Jenny and I were also in show choir together at Tri-Center High School.
I'm going to go back and look into your books.
And we were good.
We were like really good.
We were really good.
I mean, it was a small town, a small school in the middle of a cornfield, but our show choir was really good. We won awards. I don't know why I'm bragging to you about this, Rachel.
I feel like this is where we need to do a throwback. And you guys both have microphones.
Oh, dear.
I feel like it's time for a song.
Ain't no mountain high enough for you.
Never mind.
Yeah.
Let's change the conversation. We're talking about nutrition.
Back to food.
Yes.
So I feel I'm not an expert in singing or nutrition, but we're going to do both today.
We're going to do both today. No, we're just going to have a conversation of how, well, yeah. We kind of were thinking of January, which now it's February already, but new year, new habits.
People are always doing resolutions.
Yeah.
And what is the big one? I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to start eating healthier. I'm going to exercise more. And the thing about food is we can't live without it.
I know.
Right? So we've got those relationships with food that we have to make healthy, or if we don't, our health suffers from it.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that you said habits, and I really like that you, Rachel, brought up all of the resolutions that we're all going to try to do all at the same time, because
Right.
they're like full changes,
Yeah.
huge changes in themselves, but then we're like, let's just stack them on top of one another. So
I totally am guilty of that. And then when I fail one, it's like throw them all out the window.
Yep.
I can't do anything then.
if I'm not eating well, then I might as well not exercise. you know?
Right? It's
Yeah.
true.
Well, and then there's like that getting rid of them all, but also that guilt and that, oh gosh, I can't do anything. Like this one thing, I just can, and then you just harbor and carry around all that burden of just feeling like a failure when you can't live up to whatever you've decided for yourself for that resolution. And part of that, I know one of the things that we're going to talk about, and I don't want to jump too far ahead, is when you get information. So I, quite honestly, years ago, probably 3 years ago, Googled intermittent fasting. Every single morning, my email, if I choose to get on Facebook, my Facebook feed is filled with intermittent fasting, ways to banish the belly bloat. Like there's everything that by that one Google has been populated by weight loss things, that whether correct or not.
But did you know?
I like this. I like this lead in.
But did you know? Hold on, I'm going to give you a little fast fact here. Did you know that if you look at the risk factors or the associated risk factors, lifestyle things that are occurring when someone is gaining weight. It's directly related to the proximity or the closeness that someone has just dieted. So, like, basically, the biggest indicator of weight gain is restricted eating and weight loss and dieting. So, it's like, if you want to gain weight, you should try to lose weight.
That's the most depressing thing I've ever heard in my life.
But it totally makes sense.
It's true. It's that yo-yo of,
Yeah.
I could lose 30 pounds, but then you're going to gain it right back.
Yeah.
And then some, because your body's like, okay,
I've been in starvation mode.
that.
Yeah.
why'd you do that? And it's, I mean, really and truly, isn't it what God says though? When there's a law, then all we want to do is break the law. So like, let's just put a bunch of rules around our food so that all we want to do is continually break those rules.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's a great way of looking at that.
Yeah, and you can't really get away from it because it's our old Adam, it's our sinful nature, it's within us. So what are some ways then that we can figure out how can we work with sort of that, and how can we then incorporate our relationship with God into our natural bodies? I feel like a lot of times we want to separate that, right? Like we want to talk about food and nutrition and how do you eat and what do you eat? But there's so much more that
goes into that.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do you
So
eat?
do you-
How do you eat,
Okay.
Miss Jen?
So, I guess, I will say that growing up, sorry, Mom, but my mom was always on a diet. Like always, for her, it's kind of fun. Like, it's like a challenge or something she can do. She's never had a weight problem or anything like that. I think she just enjoys it. But as a young woman, I kind of was like, oh, apparently this is what you do. Like you just do that. Like you only know what to eat by whatever diet you're on says you can eat. Mm-hmm. And so I really did struggle a lot. I went to college and really struggled with my relationship with eating and with food and myself. And so for quite a few years, I struggled with that. And then I had daughters. And after I had my two daughters, I really, really didn't want them to be defined by that anymore. I didn't want them to feel like that was just a weight that they would have to carry. And I knew that if I had struggled with that, then they were likely to struggle too. So one of the tools that I found for my life that I feel like was a gift from God is it's called intuitive eating, and it's written by a couple of psychologists, maybe even psychiatrists, and they worked with a lot of anorexic women, people with diagnosed eating disorders, and they found out a lot of those triggers or a lot of the same ideas that women or men or whatever had with food or with their habits. And so they came up with these 10 principles. Number 1 is reject the diet mentality. Number 2, honor your hunger, which means you have to be able to know when you're hungry and full, like actually physically.
And not thirsty.
And not thirsty. There's so many things.
Or bored.
Or
bored, yeah.
Emotional,
Or sad,
bored.
yeah.
Yes, so it's very much about what I love about the principles of intuitive eating, and I feel, and again, not separating that from my relationship with God, but viewing it as, okay, if this is supposed to help me identify how my body works, then it's how God created my body. And if he says that I can feel when I'm hungry and full physically, and I can look at that and try to separate those other things, then my body must be able to do that naturally. Like, so I just want to hone in on figuring that out. But there's a lot of things that go with that. So making peace with food, challenging the food police. So if someone says like, are you really going to eat that? Or like, ooh, that's not the best. Did you know that's not healthy? That kind of thing. Discovering the satisfaction factor. So just sort of like sitting with what you've eaten and like feeling it to see how it's sitting and if you're full or if you're not full. Feeling your fullness, coping with your emotions with kindness, respecting your body, movement, feeling the difference between when you move and when you're not moving, and then honoring your health with gentle nutrition. So like knowing what good foods are, knowing what healthy foods are for you, and then also giving grace and like working within that, like all foods are, I love the phrase, it's just food. Like there doesn't need to be shame associated with food, no matter what you eat. But we often do that, and it's such a hard thing to disconnect.
And it
right?
becomes such a cycle, right?
Yeah.
When we see it all the time, we do. It is hard to disconnect that shame with food.
So let's start at the beginning.
Dun, dun, dun.
What does God's word say about food and how we feed ourselves?
I should have looked up how many times food is referenced in the Bible. It would be a lot.
It would be a lot.
is-
Yeah. Well, Jesus said, "I'm the bread of life."
Yeah.
Yes. And
I love bread.
And how does he strengthen and sustain us in faith?
Yeah.
Bread and wine, his body and his blood. He even associates his own physical body and blood with bread. And I mean, it's in the bread and wine. He says, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God. We know that the devil even tempted Jesus himself in the desert with food and his physical hunger after fasting for 40 days. We also have spiritual hunger, and Satan knows this. And he wants us to believe that lie, that in anything, that we can exist in anything without God, but we can't, and we don't.
Right.
So then also Ecclesiastes 9:7, go eat your food with gladness and drink your wine with a joyful heart, for God has already approved what you do. That's so beautiful. Like you're forgiven, you're bought, you're paid for, you're a claimed child of God, and you get to have freedom in that.
And enjoy what you're eating.
Yes.
And not feel shame in what you're eating.
And be a slave to it, a slave to the counting of calories or
Yeah.
the feeling out of control of binging or restricting.
Yes. And I think that's it, right? With any good gift from God, we take it and we make it our God.
Yeah.
And we worship it, and then we become a slave to it. We abuse it and use it for purposes that God didn't maybe intend. And then with that, I think that sin and shame then is where that kind of maybe comes from. But to know that we are free, though. So we're free from it, and then to know that everything is permitted, but it might not always be beneficial. So
Right.
it's sort of like working that line, like, okay, I ate something, whatever, that I shouldn't have or didn't want to or didn't intend to, or I ate too much and now I don't feel well. But again, God's created my body to sort of process that and work through that too. So can I trust it to do that and then move on? Make a new choice
Yes. tomorrow.
Yes.
Or
yes, just go with the next step. So
Well, and then part of listening to our bodies is when we eat a huge piece of chocolate cake, we're not beating ourselves up, but afterwards we feel lethargic. Maybe we get that sugar crash and feel shaky and don't feel like going on a walk with our kids that night because we just feel, ooh. So maybe it was good as part of a celebration, whatever, or we just wanted it in the moment, but recognizing, okay, there's food that fuels our body that actually causes us to feel good, have energy, want to do some of these things. And there's food that we can have sometimes, but it really doesn't make us feel good.
yes, exactly. And I mean, how many? I am known for telling my kids, like, no, you cannot have that for breakfast. I'm not going to send you to your teacher that way. Like, I know what happens. You'll be crying by noon. Like,
Be hungry. Yes. When,
yes, you're
when it
miserable.
all
sugar
burns
crash.
off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And they kind of, as much as, children and mine do, they have to set their own boundaries and their own things too with me, but they can tell, when they can tell when they feel good and when they don't, they're better at it than we are.
Yes.
Because we haven't ruined it yet.
And recognize. Well, and I think so much when we talk about children and you talk about being young and seeing that with your mom, just that cycle of dieting. I know I've tried so many hard times to think about when I went on my first diet, and I think it was 3rd grade. And it was one of my good friends, her mom had that cycle of dieting. And I remember Crystal coming to the bus stop and saying, guys, we're all doing chromium picolinate, which hilarious that I can remember that word. And I'm like, okay, what is that? Well, it's a vitamin that you need so that you burn calories so you're not fat. Aww. And at that point, I can remember this whole thing of thinking, what's fat? And am I fat? Well, I must be if I'm doing chromium picolinate. And I think that started a cycle.
And it's something I don't want to be at all costs.
Yeah, because obviously it's not good if you have to do something to prevent it. a cycle for me of anorexia and then a lifelong battle with body image and also an unhealthy relationship with food of focusing to turning food into a god. None of us want to do that. But then realizing as a mom, I always tell the story about our daughter, Jasmine. She was 3. We were in a clothing store and I'm pushing and I just had, maybe she wasn't, because I don't think I'd had Maddie yet. Probably at one of the slimmest, fittest I've ever been in my life. And I put on a coat and I said, "Ooh, Jazz, how does it look?" And she, with just adoration in her eyes, she goes, "Oh, Mom, you look so fat." And the reason she said it is because she heard me say it so many times about myself. And to her, fat meant, "Oh, Mom is fat.
Mom is beautiful."
Yeah. And it was, and she was
mean.
looking at me like saying, "Oh, Mom, you look great." But it was the word fat because I'd used it so often. And I'd like to say I've gotten better over the years, but I don't. I'm constantly still complaining about my weight or, "Oh, my pants don't fit," those different kinds of things. So, man, how do we switch that? There's the $1 million question.
And
How do we?
maybe the switch is just acknowledging that, like, yeah, I talk this way about myself. It's something I don't like about myself. I wish I didn't even do this. One of the things with my kids that I try to do is when I do cross the line or when I do, sometimes my husband's so good for me. I can be like full speed ahead and he's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I don't think you need to say that to the girls or, you don't need to say that even. He's just as good at pulling me back. But
even though he's almost 40.
He's so old. It's because he's so wise.
Yeah, that's why.
But just saying like that was a sinful thing I just did.
Yeah.
Like I shouldn't have done that. And I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We try not to talk about in our house, like we just don't talk about bodies in terms of that. But I've noticed now the girls are teenagers and all of their friends do.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at 12.
And they're surrounded.
All the time. So I have to talk to them about those things too. And we talk about just like, okay, so if you were fat, what would it mean differently about you? And they're like, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, exactly. It wouldn't mean you're any different as a person. So is even being fat like the worst thing in the world?
And what is fat?
Yes.
Like we say that word.
Yes.
People have different bodies,
Yes.
different structures, different,
We all should have fat.
Yes.
Like that's a gift. And I think it's really about being purposeful, especially like for me, I almost feel a little bit blessed in the realization that I'm going to go down that tunnel of feeling negative about my body, but then I need to be even more purposeful about not letting that come out of my mouth. Mm-hmm. And I don't want my children to grow up having an unhealthy relationship with food. Mm-hmm. And so when you were raising your kids, how did you start? What was with introduction to food when they were little? What did that look like in your family?
I will say it kind of started with my mom. No, so my dad got diagnosed with cancer and it was terminal. And so there was really not much with traditional medicine other than chemo to even prolong. So one of the things that they tried to do was to change their diet completely. And, there were a lot of like very whole foods, but then also like wheatgrass juice and, just like all of the things, mushroom pill. I don't even know. Lots of supplements, lots of things. He saw some doctor that gave him all of these ideas. But I really did I thought that was a really fun and interesting thing to look at, like the juicing, and that was fun. So kind of started to be introduced to like a lot. I mean, we always ate like the standard, like frozen peas, corn, green beans, canned green, whatever, growing up. So I didn't not know about different foods, but I didn't eat a whole lot of variety. And so when we kind of went into this, it was sort of a fun thing for me to sort of learn about all these new fruits and vegetables that I didn't really ever try, go through ones that I didn't like, eat quinoa. You know what I mean? Just I'm kind of an adventurous person that way. But again, as with any good gift, we tend to. So then it became like, okay, we can only eat this. Only eat
obsession
this.
almost,
yes.
yeah.
And bringing my sister-in-law reminded me, much to my dismay, that for my brother's birthday one year, I brought my own salad to a very nice restaurant.
Oh.
I It's like, I'm so sorry for that girl. So anyway, yeah, healthy foods are good, but there also can be not that great.
Yeah.
So, when you're
become a god.
anything that you don't need or whatever is not necessarily healthy for you, or is not good for you, is not healthy for you. So, but yeah, so then I guess my world of like, I always have loved sweets and growing candy and all of that, but then eating all of these healthy foods, I sort of had like this broad, I still think I sort of have this broad range of like food. And then I make choices based off of, I guess, honestly, I do love the My Plate, so I'll talk about the My Plate a little bit. I know that we don't like to promote things at the government. It's never very fun to, because you never know. But I really do like how simple it is. It gives you a plate, and it shows you quadrants on your plate. It splits it into 4, so that half of your plate becomes fruits and vegetables. A quarter of your plate is like whole grains, protein, and then a dairy serving. And I just think that's as basic as you can get. And if you did that every time, or most times, if you had half of your plate being fruits and vegetables, we wouldn't have like such a struggle. You know what I mean? It's
and your body would be like satiated,
like
right? And
operating like, feeling
Nutrient.
good.
Yeah.
Yes.
So My Plate is like the new pyramid, right?
Yes, I think so. It's been around actually for, I think almost, I want to say 5 to 10 years. Because the girls, I used it when the girls were little. It's transitioned a little bit, like just the look of it, but the same premise is, or the premise is the same.
Food. Yeah.
Yeah. But my kids, I got them like the little My Plates, and they even know now, and we love like the bento boxes for lunch because they can see then like, oh, and it's so colorful. They love to like, what can I put in this thing? Okay, well, what do I have? I think that's part of it too, of eating. I was like, okay, what do I have? What have I eaten already? What am I going to eat? What's maybe missing? What could I get? Where do I have opportunities to get in some of those things that will make me feel good? And I love, like, strawberries and blueberries, like all day.
Yeah.
So
Something I love, and going back to the government, I think that we have so many people who are so passionate about serving different groups in the community. One, I think early childhood does so much good, and there's so many people that are really pushing for good things. And there's something called Go Knapsack. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's really truly about early childhood programs and getting in there and helping create healthy eating habits and physical activity at a young age, from like partnering with moms that are bringing their 6-week-olds to childcare and allowing, like, how can we help them if they're choosing to breastfeed, or how can we start some of these processes early. And one of the big things about Go Knapsack is let's get fresh fruits and vegetables into the hands. Let's find programs where even if it's not cost effective for the program to do, how can we utilize local farmers, like all kinds of cool, how can we help them grow their own vegetables so now children can see where their food comes from and have the joy of eating something that they've grown. But we have an amazing woman here at Messiah. We have several of them, but Sarah Weissar, who is our nutrition specialist for the Early Childhood Development Center. And she is so good about finding really interesting things to make for our kids' snack here. And one of the things that she makes, the first time the kids had it, you should have seen the looks on their faces, but now it's devoured. But she takes a whole wheat tortilla with hummus and broccoli slaw.
Okay.
And puts it together. It's like a little sandwich. And you could probably speak to this better than I could, but I think, how many times do you have to taste something?
13 times.
13. Really?
We have a 13 times rule at our house.
And so it was like, these palates haven't been introduced to some of these things. It's amazing. Even talking to the group of friends or how many kiddos don't regularly eat fresh fruits or vegetables when you talk about corn and peas and kind of some of those starchy things. Once children are introduced and have the opportunity to, maybe we even would talk about, which I know this is probably not the most appropriate, but kissing a piece of food so that it's touching your lips. And then the next step, maybe you touch it on your tongue, maybe you even put your teeth in it, even if you're not going to eat it, so you get that sensation and a little bit of the flavor. I think it's so fascinating and so great that we can introduce raw asparagus to a 3-year-old and they get a chance to taste it and see how their body feels after eating it, as compared to a prepackaged snack food.
Yeah, absolutely. We have at our house that you mentioned the tortilla. We have what's called a Hansen special. And one of the things that was like my goal was like, I'm not just going to be a PBJ mom. Like, I'm not just going to make PBJs every single day. Like, I want them to have something different and variety, whatever. So one of our things called Hansen special, and it's a tortilla with peanut butter and fresh strawberries and blueberries, raspberries, blackberries, whatever kind of berry. And then you fold, when you fold it up, and I put it in their lunch, and then sort of like the juices from that stuff sort of marinates until lunch. And then when the kids love it. That is like, they ask for it all the time. Hansen special.
That's good.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You can make your own jelly.
I should try
Yes.
it.
Well, and
Yeah.
I think
Healthier way.
yes. And I think that's the thing for me is I like to, the challenge for me is, okay, if you're going to give me something that I like, I'm going to figure out a way that I can eat it in a healthier way or whatever that makes me feel good, that gives me the protein so that it lasts longer in my body or whatever. So I think having an adventurous mindset towards eating, towards food, towards meal planning, towards meal preparing with your kids, bring your kids into the kitchen. Like you said, have them, what's a great way to make your kids eat, to get your kids to eat fruits and vegetables is to put them out fresh before dinner when they're starving.
Yeah.
And they're like, I need something to eat. I'm like, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the adventure and the willingness yourself, like you're never going to get your kids to eat a cucumber or broccoli if you won't eat it.
Right.
It's just,
Yeah.
so.
When we talk about so much, even in the classroom, when the kiddos are eating, and if what a teacher says has all the impact. If you're serving broccoli, and, ew, I hate broccoli. Sorry that that's why. Like, what is the child? Even if they've never tried broccoli, they're going to hate broccoli, and as parents. But if it's like little trees. I get so excited on broccoli day, even if you yourself do not love broccoli, and if you don't, what kind of sick human are you? Love broccoli.
I cannot eat it without it getting in my teeth, though, every single time. It's a real...
Also,
it's like a cartoon. Yeah. I feel it.
I feel like at some point also, I just don't even care anymore. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
You can wear it as a badge of honor. Broccoli in your teeth? I know. 'Cause
I got it.
Look what I ate for lunch.
You mean you don't care, that
Like-
it doesn't taste good?
You don't love it? Oh, that's Graham's favorite. Like, that's the one thing that he'll always, like,
That's awesome.
we have a thing where with the girls, I was such a great mom with the girls.
Then that third one came along.
And so one of our habits is that we don't eat in front of the TV. So we eat at the table. We eat together, or if I'm cooking something or making something or doing something, they'll eat at the island or whatever. But you have a plate in front of you and you're eating. You're not doing 3 different things while you're eating. So that has always gone really well until I had my son, and he just is, I don't know. He loves more than anything to sit in front of an iPad and eat. And we tell him all the time, well, first of all, the girls didn't have iPads because, like I said, I was a better parent then. But, we're like, he's like, well, I'll just eat broccoli then. I'm like, I want to say no. I want to say yes. I don't know what the right answer is. I don't know.
You stumped me.
Yes, that's funny.
So, yeah. There's no right answer.
And
Right.
there's so many different things right now in the world to navigate when it comes to even something as simple as our nutrition, because we've talked in so many of our podcasts about so many screen time.
Yeah.
I mean, and that is part
Screen
of
time,
yeah.
busy schedules of we're
Yeah.
on the go. How could I sit or be at home to make dinner? We're running.
We got to
20
do it
different
fast.
places.
Yeah. And
That's what I was gonna-
influences.
oh, sorry.
Yeah. Oh no.
That's what I was going to say when you said you don't care anymore. I don't care that I'm known as the lady who brings her food everywhere.
Uh-huh.
I don't, everyone knows our family is they have their big bag of food or their cooler or whatever, because I don't care. But then, people will come up to me later and be like, can I really do that? How do you do that? And then I get to tell them, it's so great. You just throw a bunch of stuff in plastic baggies or whatever and throw it in your cooler. And then you get to decide. If you don't want to eat that during the day and you want to eat concessions or whatever, go for it. But if you want it, there it is. You have it. I don't know. I like to be able to have all the options, I like to make my decisions for myself. I get frustrated when I'm out and about and the only options I have are I don't know, whatever,
Fast
fried
food
food. Yeah,
and
fried
more
food
fast
or
food,
whatever.
yeah.
Yes. Like all yellow food that, So I don't care anymore that I'm
Good
weird.
for you.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Love
So,
it.
I'll carry my big cooler bag with not
Yes.
fried.
With broccoli and
So
Yes.
I'm doing a mental note. Next time I see Jen someplace with her bag, I'm going to do a real quick switch with my bag.
Yes,
I'm pretty sure what it's.
I'm gonna ask her for a snack. She has.
Come get snacks from us.
I want a Hansen special.
Yes,
Oh, we'll always have those. The kids will be laughing when they hear this.
that's
They'll love
funny.
it.
So something we've talked about too with like screen time and just all this wealth of information out there that's maybe not very wealthy. Like, how do you find the good information? What resources would you point us to, or where do you start?
I guess that's okay. I do like, again, the MyPlate. It's just myplate.gov. And there's a ton of information there. You can go make your own plan on there if you want to put your own stuff in there or get your own recipes. You can sort of put in and make yourself a profile. And it's very basic nutrition information. I feel like the more difficult that it gets or the more complex, then the less likely you are to do it, right? So I really do like that website. I think there's a ton of information and it will send you to a ton of resources. I think it's more about where you're going to find bad information because that's where you're going to find it everywhere. Anything that it promises you that
Lose
it's going to
11
change
pounds
your
by
life.
Monday.
Yeah. It's not going to change your life. You're still going to be living your same life. It might be I don't know, you might actually not like it as much, like you might be the thinnest you've ever been or the most in shape or whatever you've ever been, but you still will be you and you are still going to have the same struggles that you've had before, whether you're eating one kind of food or another kind of food.
Right.
So, and it just takes me to when Jesus was at the well, and he was talking to the Samaritan woman. And again, he asked her for a drink. And he asked her for a drink, and he says to her, "Everyone who drinks of this water will be thirsty again. But whoever drinks of the water that I will give him will never be thirsty again. The water that I will give him will become in him a spring of water welling up to eternal life." And it just points to that temporary satisfaction that any food or water is going to provide in this life. That's it. That's all you're going to get. And it can even if you eat really healthy food all the time that makes you feel really good, you're still going to struggle. So it's not our savior. But Jesus promises that he is our savior and that if we consume him, we will never be thirsty again. That's what he gives us. And we don't get to, I guess some of the hope that I have is, it's always food, body image, my daughters, all of that. It's always going to be somewhat of a struggle. I'll always have days, whatever, where I'm focused more on my body than I am on my spiritual life. But I can know that when his kingdom does come into full view, that my glorified body won't need food or whatever. It won't need.
It would be perfect.
Yes, it will be perfect. And that to me is like, I think when we can find ways in the everyday, whether it's food, whether it's whatever, we can find opportunities to be excited and to be thankful for God's gift of salvation for what is to come. And so then it sort of then can help put food back into its place, its rightful place a little bit as
Knock
that
it
gift.
off the throne of our hearts,
Yeah.
which is what we have to do with so many things.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I don't know. In all things health related, earthly related, I love to help make things easier for people, whether it's food, whether it's nutrition, whether it's habits, whether it's whatever. But what I really love is talking about how Christ is, when he's king, then everything else can sort of go back to the gift that they are instead of the way we worship them, so.
Well, and it really does in so many, we can talk about it since we're talking about food and nutrition, but in so many instances, it all comes back to what's on the throne of our hearts, right? Mm-hmm. If it's our relationship with food, if it's anything, putting the busyness of life ahead of Christ, it's all about kind of getting our hearts right. So that's the perfect place to bring it back to.
Yes. We just really do love to separate, I think, the food and like our natural bodies, like food, exercise, like that has nothing to do with God, right? Like, it doesn't have anything to do with our relationship with God, but it does. Like, when we can acknowledge the ways that he's made our bodies and how it works, and food and drink and exercise are all things that we can use as gifts or as tools to make ourselves feel better in this life or whatever. But it's never disconnected. So
It's all connected, and it's really cool way to just once again bask in like God's creativity and his masterpiece of this is how the body functions, and this is how it is all connected. Even our moods and our diet and our sleep and like every part of our body and our brains, it is all connected. We like to think if I eat 5 cupcakes, it's not really going to matter. Yeah. It's going to affect
Probably is.
it is. Your brain, your body, your.
And when do we eat 5 cupcakes? Usually when we always like
It's not a great day.
We like to do the easy route, and instead of maybe doing the hard work of digging down to why are we experiencing stress or anxiety?
Yeah,
let's shove some sugar in our mouth. I'm guilty.
Or we've done really well all day and we've restricted
my
all
reward.
day, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I can't stop.
Yes.
So yeah. Speaking of, real life ways that food can impact your body, I think I'm discovering, so I don't want to promote any products, but I got this certain appliance, much to my husband's dismay, another kitchen appliance. But it can make, I love ice cream, and I can basically make a protein shake-ish or whatever, something sweet, into ice cream, and it has that mouthfeel of ice cream, and I love it.
Does this product like make you think of little guys dressed in black?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm fighting the sugar demons. No.
I have had that product sitting in one of my carts for months, but I didn't know if it was actually worth the money.
Okay. Well,
are you giving me a thumbs up?
I'm just when I say that no food related thing will change your life, I was wrong. But really and truly, okay, so I've been eating this ice cream every night and not eating all of the candy, sugar, whatever that I normally eat. Or if I do, it's a small amount in the ice cream. I was having night sweats horribly bad for like years, every night. And I thought it was like hormonal. Like, what is happening? I'm waking up in the night. I'm like, sorry, TMI, change my clothes because I'm soaked in sweat. Since I got this thing, I'm not kidding you guys, I have not had night sweats. I don't, and I think it's a blood sugar thing. I think my blood sugar was like totally tanking, and then I'm waking up in a sweat. So sorry for the TMI, but if you don't think that food affects your body, yes. Oh, yeah. I really do like it. Except, again, now I just worry every day that it's going to break. What am I going to do? So, but also none of my family members want it because they're like, that's protein shake. I don't want that. I'm like, perfect.
Do you use like Greek yogurt in there, like a plain, or what do you use for your base?
I use Fairlife milk with, has like higher protein in it. And I use sugar-free, fat-free pudding mix. So tell me it's unhealthy. I don't care. That, and then like a protein powder. And then there's like, you can do extracts or you can put strawberries in there, whatever. Sure. So I just mix it all first. You can use a blender to make, if you want. You don't really have to, I don't think, but I have like an immersion blender. So I just mix it right in the little thing, and then you freeze it, and then you put it in there, and 4 minutes of just like painful waiting later, you have ice cream. I can even you can put it in a cone. I eat it in a cone.
Oh my goodness.
You guys put sprinkles in it, and then I have sprinkle ice cream.
It's like waiting for an espresso, though. 4 minutes. 4 minutes. The longest 4 minutes of your day.
Oh, yeah. And it's really loud. So my husband is just like, what is that thing doing? It's going to fly away. And I'm like, I don't care. It can take me with it. I'm going. So, yeah. No, I do love that thing. And I mean, again, adventurous.
Yep. Find ways to make treats as healthy as possible.
Yes.
I love it.
Yeah.
That sounds fun. You make it sound fun.
It can be. It can be, okay, but it can be a lot of work. Meal prepping is like so much work. It really is. I'm not going to be.
And it takes that time and the.
So I am not like graceful in the kitchen by any means. And since I had this baby, I have experienced a hunger like I have never experienced before. Because I'm breastfeeding and I have to eat. And before I'm fine with grazing or I just meh. But now I get hangry in a real way, and I can't. Michael used to do most of the kitchen stuff, and now I'm like, I have to have control, or I'm gonna freak out because I'm hungry. Anyways, I'm doing freezer meals to help set myself up for success because I am so tired at night, or I just can't. So I took on last Friday. I made 14 freezer meals all by myself, and it almost killed me. But I did it.
You go 14. That's 2 weeks.
Trudy Lappy. Shout out to Trudy because she gave me these recipes. And I think they're pretty healthy, and they're super simple.
Yeah, that's what I like.
Yeah.
Very simple.
But
And it's going to prevent
totally
you
worth it
from
because I'm not going to be
snacking.
Yeah.
Because it'll be there, and you won't drive through whatever fast food place is closest to home.
And don't you think when you know what you're going to eat, you kind of are excited about it, and then you don't want to do something else?
Yeah.
Like when I have my food in my bag, I'm like, ooh, like I know what I'm having. And I don't know. There's something about the anticipation that then I don't know. I'm fine with it.
And just that safety, for lack of a better word, of like, I'm not going to.
Thank you.
It's
Yes.
it's okay. It's right there. It's not, I'm going to get cranky and freak out and have to go whatever, drive
That's part
through
of
or
it.
yeah.
I'm like that too. And so if I'm somewhere, like I don't go anywhere without food because I don't know. I think it's a weird thing, but I don't like to go places without food because I don't know where I'm going to be. I got to take care of me.
It is a thing though, even going to other people's houses, which I feel bad because people probably maybe have gone to my house and felt the same of like, well, what if there's no food there? What if, I don't know.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
I always this is top secret information. The console of my car has always been my stash because usually I leave. I've been at work for a long day and I am so hungry and I'm starting to, but my mind has been preoccupied, so I haven't thought about eating. And I get in there and it used to be jelly beans. I always had jelly beans in there. By the time I got home and started making supper, I felt like I was going to vomit.
Yes.
Because I just spiked my blood sugar. So I've tried to be better. So usually there's beef jerky or something like that. Quite honestly, now there's nothing in there because after I couldn't put jelly beans in there anymore, I stopped. The beef jerky worked for a while. But, again, that's setting up yourself up for success where you have... Instead of, if I can reach in and grab jelly beans, it's about 6 or 7 minute drive home. I could probably down that whole bag of jelly beans in that 6 or 7 minutes if I try really hard. Same with Twizzlers. So don't keep them in there. Don't have that temptation right there.
And those are some of the things. I think one of the things that culture tells us all the time is like self-care. You have to take care of you. You have to do what's right for you, and it's okay. You can do it. It's self-care. Sometimes self-care is, I know I am going to struggle with that, so I'm not going to have it there.
Yeah.
Sometimes love is a little tougher than we think it is.
Self-care is taking care of your
what
body.
you really need, not what you want.
Right.
No, yes, exactly. Is not permissing what you want to be okay, even if it isn't.
That is something I totally struggle with is if something is there, I will eat the whole thing. Like I can't have Oreos in my house. I can't
bake cookies.
I can't either. And I tell you, we have these Christmas cookies that my sister and we just had this conversation yesterday. My mom, they're my grandma's recipe. Nobody else really likes them. They're a molasses cookie. They're not like super sweet.
That sounds amazing.
It's the best. And I literally ate 2 batches of these cookies, like full, all by myself.
Well,
Michael,
when's the next time you'll have them again?
next Christmas. And that's what I said too. It's like, well, it's Christmas. But not anymore. But that is like, I just know that about myself, so I can't do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Intuitive eating, when I went through that, there's a whole portion. It's called the Doritos and Donuts phase. And it's when you bring back that stuff and you eat that. And if that's all you eat, then that's all you eat. But you do it with the rest of the principles. Like, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to eat this. I'm going to see how it really makes me feel. Like, I'm going to eat it slowly, and I'm going to fill up on it, or whatever. I'm going to do whatever. I'm going to eat it. And then you're taking in then. So then you can sort of compare it instead of having that mindset of always I'm trying to push down thoughts and emotions and feelings towards this. You're like letting them come up and you're letting them just be what they are instead of what you think they should be. So you're like, okay, yeah, that's what I want to eat. I'm going to eat it. I'm going to eat a donut. And then you realize like, okay, I didn't feel that great. Or I ate a donut and then I didn't eat for 3 more hours and it was fine. Like it's sort of just like watching your body instead of judging it, just sort of like watching what your body does.
So eating 30 Christmas cookies and feeling a sense of amazing Christmas joy is a good thing.
I say that.
It's nostalgia.
Yes. And you probably didn't
think that's
eat right
a win.
away because you probably felt
No,
kind of
I
sick.
think I only ate cookies the entire day.
And that's the thing. That's the thing. Instead of trying to say, I can't have that or I'm never going to have that, the concept is eat the cookies, but have that. Like I used to eat the cookies, but because I ate the cookies, eat the other things too. Or make myself eat something first before I could eat the cookies. So I would only eat a few cookies, but then I would eat more cookies. You know, so it's like, if you want the cookies, just eat the cookies.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you have to eat. You might find at some point if you just eat the cookies, you don't have to eat them all every time. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of the concept, and it really is a lot of work, though. I will say that.
And it's like training. That intuitive eating is a lot of training, so you have to listen to your body and you have to take the time.
Yes.
Self-control.
I promised myself a year. I said, okay, I'm going to try this for a year, and I'm going to just whatever happens, happens. You know, like at that point, I was terrified of gaining weight or, you know what I mean? Just whatever. So I said, I'm going to give myself a year. And if it's completely whatever, then I'll just go back to what I was doing, I guess, or I'll whatever. But I'm going to try this. And it was a very freeing. It's a tool that I feel like God gave me to sort of free me from a lot of the ways I was thinking about things. But again, He was with me in that study. He was with me in that trial. He was with me all the way through that. And it was never, I was always praying like, Lord, change my heart, please, because I just don't even, like, I'm going to try these things, but I don't even know what they are, and I don't even know what this means. And can you change me? Can you help me not want these things? And can you help me just to, like, not worry so much about this? And He did. I mean, like, He really does. And I struggle. But really and truly, He's with me in that struggle, too. So I feel like I truly believe He has changed my desires from one of being the thinnest possible or being the smallest. It was always, when I was growing up, was always being small. If you were the smallest person, that was always like glorified. Like, she's so tiny. She's even tinier than you, is what people would always say to me.
Jen, you were really tiny.
But she was even tinier than me. You know, like that was, and so I was always like, well, I want to be the tiniest. Yeah. Because that's the thing, right? Even tinier than me.
That's how you get noticed.
I guess. I don't know.
That is so, okay, because we did grow up together.
Yeah.
I am not tiny, I'm tall, but I was really thin growing up too. And so many people would comment on it. I'm like, I wish people didn't say that.
I know, one way or the other. I don't know
like,
what that
don't
means.
tell me I'm skinny or thin. Like, who cares? Yeah.
That's all you know.
Or tall, and identify you by how you look.
And then when you're not that, it's kind of
It's so confusing.
jarring. Yeah.
You're a child. It really is.
Yeah.
What does this even matter? I don't know. Oh, one other thing we should talk about then also is, because this has come up with one of the friend of ours, a neighbor of ours, her daughter is in high school. She's a senior. And she is built in a way that is wonderful. But it's different than a way that a lot of teen girls are. She maybe is more developed, I guess. I don't know how to say these things. But she feels like she needs to have, I want skinny legs. I'm like, well, you have your legs. And you are very healthy. You exercise, you're strong, you can do a lot of things, you love to dance, you love to do this, you love to do that. I'm like, you can sit there and always want to have someone else's legs, and you'll never get them. You're always going to have some version of your legs. Yeah. So you better start to just love the legs you got, and because we're always, we see magazines or whatever, maybe they don't have magazines anymore.
Right.
Maybe
but I think it's even worse today because they have TikTok or whatever.
Yeah,
where
you don't have to go to the grocery store to find it.
Yeah. And these girls really do look perfect. And they're 12. They're supposed to be in their most awkward, ridiculous phase. And they look amazing.
But
that
do you see the things where they're like, this is what I really look like? And they're like, and their stomach hangs out. And you're like, thank you.
Yes.
There's somebody on Instagram, and her name is Danae, and I think it's Mercer is her last name. And her whole goal for being Insta famous is, I think she was a fitness model, but she's like, the internet is not real. And she goes on and she'll show you her before, and then she shows you, and she said, okay, this is what they see. This is what you see. And it's her letting her time, and she'll show you how they do the poses, and she shows you how they use Photoshop, and she really wants a positive body image, and she shows her stretch marks and everything, and said, okay, this is not real. Stop judging on. And now AI, a lot of the people that you see on social media aren't even people. It's AI, so how can we hold ourselves to that standard of something that's not even real?
Right.
And why do our hearts long to be held to that standard when we, again, need to recenter our focus?
And really, what is beauty, and what are people attracted to, is that love of Christ pouring through you. When I think of who is the most beautiful people I know, it is people that you just know Christ is in them, and that love and that light is shining through them, and their bodies look a lot of different ways. And I don't even notice that because what you notice is their goodness and their kindness. And let's strive for that.
Yes. And that's what we should as Christ followers. That's that hard work of resisting Satan. We've been given the tools. We've got the Holy Spirit. We've got self-control. We have the ability to, when we notice these things about ourselves, reframing it and saying, no, my identity is not in the food I ate. It's not in how my body looks. It's not this, that. It's in Christ, my Savior. And boy, that conversation has to take internally place a lot. But little steps.
I feel like I drugged my mom a little bit at the beginning of this when I said she was always in diet. Sorry, Mom. But I want to then bring up the fact that something I say to my daughters is something she always said to me, and why the dieting thing gets in and these two things get in, but again, for somehow we're disconnected. She would always say to me, and I say this to my girls all the time, it isn't what others think of you, it's what the Lord knows of you. So if someone thinks you're fat or thin or nice or good looking or not good looking, what they think of you isn't it's what the Lord knows of you. And then I always ask them, what does the Lord know of you? And whether good, bad, or ugly, I mean, it's something to reflect on, is what does the Lord know of you?
And we sang last night, of Wednesday night, my favorite song right now, the I am who you say I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. I'm a child of God. And that is, no matter what we feel like or what we look like or what we see in the mirror or who tells us what. What does God know of us? He knows that we are redeemed children of God, and someday we will have that perfect, where this won't even be a conversation.
Yeah. And him becoming man, he knows the struggles with food. He knows what it was like to be hungry, and I mean, and so we have a God. We do not have a God that can't sympathize with us. He knows what it's like, and so we can again, rest in that He knows that we struggle. He knows. And he said, anyway, we're worth it. So.
And he loves us exactly where we're at.
Yeah.
Jenny, thank you so much for coming. This was a great conversation.
And happy birthday.
Yes.
And happy future birthday to your husband.
Thank you.
And I just really appreciate this conversation. A good perspective to have for everyone. So.
Of course. I know. I feel sorry. I didn't really give you very many healthy eating tips, except fruits and veggies.
Right?
5 to 9.
That's the thing. Like, we
know.
all we
need.
We know what to do. It's just that mindset of,
Yeah.
Thank
awesome.
you.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yay.
Thanks, Jenny. Oh, Jenny. I just did
Jen.
it.
That's fine.
I just went back to Honey Creek.
This has been a Messiah Lutheran Ministry production. Subscribe to Messiah Lutheran on Apple Podcasts or anywhere you listen to podcasts. You can also find our worship services and our Sermon Extra podcast by searching Messiah Lincoln on YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of our content. If you'd like to know more about Messiah Ministries, visit messiah.us. We'd love to hear from you as well, so please email us at littlethings@messiah.us.